This is a lesson plan for a Wayne Thiebaud style cake. We will be creating a small cake on paper with the texture of icing on it. We'll also be exploring symmetry with the design of the cake platter or cupcake holders, depending on the grade level, and also touching a little bit on collage and gluing down the cake platter or cupcake holders. So to begin with, the materials that we're going to need a small container to mix up our icing in. We'll need another container to do some measuring in. I'm using a Starbucks cup because I can determine the amount of liquid by the bottom of the Starbucks logo. Need a plastic knife for stirring and spreading the icing. We've got two pieces of construction paper, one large and one small. The small one is what we'll be making the cupcake holders or the cake platter out of. This is liquid watercolor in a squeeze bottle so the kids can measure out their own liquid. And this is powdered wall mud or grout, or not grout. It's for fixing drywall. Okay, and it's in a powder form, and it's a quick set. It'll harden in about 45 minutes. So to begin with, we're going to cut out our cake platter, and to do that, you simply take this paper and fold it in half. And this is where the symmetry comes into play, because we're going to draw half of the cake platter. Now make sure the kids know to draw it so that the fold is on the center of this paper. And we'll draw the base, and this is the column going up, and that's the top of the cake platter. Now if you'd like, you can have them open it up and make sure that there is a mirror image on this side of it. Now of course these two drawings aren't symmetrical, so the best way to make it precisely symmetrical is to fold this in half when you cut it. Then when you cut it out like that, you're going to end up with a symmetrical design. One that is the same on both the left and the right side. They think this is it, but that is just scrap. Open it up, and there's our cake platter. Okay. The cupcakes are similar. I took the same purple paper and put it through a crimper to give it that cupcake cup texture. This we fold in half, and then I tell the kids to draw a line almost at the top, almost all the way across. That's going to be the top of our cupcake. Then they have to determine how big they want the cupcake. Do they want a little cupcake or do they want a big cupcake? Most of them want a big cupcake, so you're going to draw another line parallel with this one down however tall you want it, but it needs to be a little bit shorter on each end. And they can determine that with these lines that are already there. Then you draw a diagonal line up that way, creating a trapezoid, and cut this out. This is going to give us two symmetrical cupcake holders. Just like that. And then if you want to make sure that they do glue them down symmetrically, I would suggest putting an X on the outside of each, and then when you glue it with the X down, you have two symmetrical mirror images of the cupcake holder. So then we're going to take and glue these onto our paper to begin with. Now I like to tell the kids so that they don't waste a lot of glue, because some of them think that they really need to use a lot of glue. Just a thin eye on the cake holder, like so, and then glue it down near the base. You want to leave a little room down here, a little foreground, just for design, rather than putting it right on the edge. Then I asked them to go ahead and draw the outline of the cake that they want to make. Okay? Now, for the cupcakes, We do this horizontally, and I put them down with both the X's facing up, and then I tell the kids to put a small dot of glue in each corner, because of course they want to use gallons of glue. And then you glue this down and tell them to look at it and make sure that it does look symmetrical, that it is the same on the left and the right side. Okay? Okay, so there we have both of our bases ready. Now we need to mix up our icing. Okay, for that we're going to use this powdered icing, and it mixes at about a 2.5 to 1 ratio, which through trial and error I have figured out if you fill this container up to about 1/4 of an inch from the lip of it, and then fill this one up to just at the bottom of the Starbucks logo, that's about a 2.5 to 1 ratio. I like to tell them to put the containers on the table so that they make sure that they do get a precise measurement, that it's not leaning any. Then you're going to take, and I like to have them pour not quite all of the liquid into the powder, because they may have a little, not quite enough powder if they measured it out themselves, or they might have too much liquid or not enough liquid. So you want to give yourself a little wiggle room. It'll soak in pretty good. And I tell them to wait until it's soaked in pretty good before they start stirring it. Make sure they stir all the way to the bottom. Now, if there's a whole lot of powder that's still there, of course you're going to need some more liquid. I tell them to look for a texture in this icing similar to, well, icing, or maybe soft serve ice cream, cream cheese, any of those creamy things. You want this to be fairly creamy. Now this gives you about 45 minutes to work with. Actually, really probably half an hour before it really starts getting a little bit difficult to work with, starts hardening up. Right now it's fairly creamy. You can see I didn't quite use all of the liquid in there to get this creamy texture. Okay, and now here's where they can start making their icing. Okay, I try and talk them into scooping out a big dollop of it and put it on there. Most of the kids like to work with small little bits like that. But if you take it and scoop out a good portion of that icing on here, it's just about the right size. And then they kind of have to experiment with how best to hold the knife to get it to smear correctly. But you want to ice the entire thing. And they can create different designs and patterns in the icing. These plastic knives actually give it a pretty nice texture on here. And just keep icing this cake. I always get icing on the cake holder. I think it gives it a touch of realism, kind of like a cake that I would make at home. Probably would have icing on the cake platter. You can see that this container just about use it all to ice one cake here. And then you still have time to kind of play with the texture of it, get some nice swirls in it like you see on cakes. Get some good texture in there. Okay, now the cupcakes are done the same way, mixing the materials, only you're icing cupcakes, and this really gives them a chance to work with getting the two cupcake halves symmetrical. I'm really working with, for first and second grade on learning about symmetry, but you would just work on icing them the same way you ice this. And then when I clean up, I simply take the knives, because this will harden on there. It will break off, but it's just easier if you hand out some paper towels and they just wipe that off, and that's good. These I throw away. This I rinse out and reuse because I like being able to use that measurement there. And that is how to make a Wayne Thiebaud style cake painting with texture.